Good evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of BackMarker Battles. I'm your host of the ARCA Racing Podcast, Colby Evans, and it's great to be back here on this Wednesday evening. If you guys hear some barking, my father just got home, and my dog is barking like crazy, so I apologize if you hear a lot of barking. But anyway, again, welcome to the show, guys. It's great to be back again. No ARCA Racing Podcast, as again, ARCA's on this big break, but we actually have two races coming up. Talladega weekend. There's going to be an ARCA race at the ARCA race at Talladega, and then of course I think there's an ARCA West event. If I'm not sure, I haven't checked the schedules yet, but obviously that'll be in a couple of weeks. But for now, we're going to be doing BackMarker battles, so that way I can still talk to you guys and be able to do something on the Wednesdays and just overall have some fun. So as of course a little intro. Follow me of course on social media at Start and Park on Twitter. Follow our friends, ARCA Racing, at ARCA_Racing. The man himself, Brad Smith, at Driver Brad Smith on Twitter. The NASCAR legend himself, Brock Beard, at NASCAR Brock. Nascarman RR, the best NASCAR history page. And then, of course, my favorite guy, David Pequeen on Twitter. I think it's at CarsD27048. Go follow all those fun guys. Those are my support friends, supporters, everyone who kind of makes Start and Park account what it is, and the ARCA and NASCAR Start and Park, our YouTube channel, what it is as well. Support all of them, and of course, continue to support the channel. Remember, guys, when we hit the 250 subs, we are doing our first giveaway of two 164 scale die casts. And the closer we get, the sooner I might release them. So like and subscribe so we can get there. All right. Let's begin the show. We had Martinsville. Definitely a very opinionated weekend of racing. If you guys want my opinion of the weekend, I thought the racing was a little bit underwhelming. Definitely in the boat with a lot of people there, that the racing may not have been what a lot of us expected. Going into Martinsville, we definitely expected utter mayhem. We got a little bit of that. We did, especially in the Xfinity race. But if you take out the Ty Gibbs situation and you really look at it from that perspective, you take out the restart where everybody wrecked in the Xfinity race and the Ty Gibbs fight, you don't have much of a weekend, and that's really where I want to look at it like that. The weekend itself, in my opinion, was a little underwhelming. The Cup race, I don't want to get into the Cup race. We already know what happened. The Cup race there, we don't need to mention. We'll go over the battles, obviously, but I don't want to mention too much of that Cup race. But my favorite race of the weekend was Xfinity, not because of the fight, but it was actually just because it had the best finish and the most interesting battles. As of course, we're going to go over some news first, and then of course we'll get to the battles. In the chat, they're just going crazy about Ty removing his helmet. I don't want to get into all that. We've already made our opinion stretch. If you guys have looked at my timeline, you guys know how I felt. But yeah, apparently Ty was only fined $15,000. And apparently there was also a GoFundMe set up. I am not kidding. It was set up, and in less than 3 hours, it was taken down. So that's a little funny thing I wanted to mention on this podcast. It's actually on my timeline if you guys want to go check it out. I still got the link if you guys want to go look at it. But we'll get into the battles here. Obviously, we'll start off with a Truck Series. Truck Series, of course, last year, guys, we had the top 40 just a race and the top 36 full purse money battle. Obviously, with qualifying back, those battles have gone away. So the only battle that really remains in the Truck Series that is not really talked about is the top 20 owners bonus. And that did change quite a bit. A lot of lower budget teams bring good setups to Martinsville, and there was definitely a lot of beating and banging going around that did involve a lot of owner point switches. I still feel bad for a lot of the teams that missed the race. The 90, the 35, and the 9 not even getting a chance to qualify when just a couple of hours later, Xfinity qualifying was able to happen. Really wish we kind of would have waited it out, even if it didn't happen on TV. I feel bad for Justin Carroll, Jake Garcia, and Blaine Perkins. Didn't even get a chance to. I think they still went through Tech, but I don't think they even got a chance to qualify. So I felt bad for them right there. But yeah, in terms of their Camping World Truck Series battle, sorry guys, taking some time to load here. Ben Rhodes is still leading the points. If you guys are curious, Thor Sport Racing is leading the championship. Right now, top 20 owners bonus, the last two. 19th is the 56 of Hill Motorsports. And in 20th place is the 44 of Nice Motorsports, where Chris Wright, has Chris Wright actually been involved in almost every wreck in the truck series this year? I think he's wrecked in every race, but yet he still managed to bring home a decent finish in some of these races. And then the teams you would say that, would be looking for that top 20 owners bonus that are not involved currently in the battle right now. You could say like the 61 of Hattori Racing, which is down in 24th. The 91, which is the second McAnally Racing team, which is in 30th. The GMS 2014, which is down in 31st. 31st is the GMS 2014. And then, of course, Haley Deegan and the Team DGR down in 33rd. Some very competitive truck teams way down in the brackets. And it's kind of surprising. But also, if you've watched the Truck Series this season, you would understand why the results are like that. And I could have said in a lot of ways, Deegan got a little lucky. We didn't know how she was going to qualify at Martinsville. She was 36th coming into this race. Had she been just one spot lower, she would have missed the field. You can say, though, the one thing I would say is, though, if she was in that position, if she was 37th in the points, you can bet NASCAR would have tried to have qualifying. I'll just say that right now. If Deegan was in a position where if she was going to miss the show because it rained out, they would have had qualifying no matter what. I'll just say that because I'm pretty sure had Dale Jr. missed the field in the Xfinity race, they would have tried to have qualifying any way possible. So I'll just say that. As for the truck race itself, some of the great BackMarker runs in the race, didn't have a lot of them, mainly because, like I said, the lack of attrition in these races, I felt like is maybe what hurt them a little bit. It was good to see the Spire Motorsports team get a win. I don't care if it has Hendrick support. I've been a Spire Motorsports fan ever since they came into the sport in 2019 when they were just a premium motorsports affiliated team. So it's good to see them actually be somewhat competitive. Trying to pull up the race results here, guys. Give me 1 second. My computer's being a little slow. Here we go. So, yeah, we had some good runs. Not many good for the BackMarkers. Of course, if you guys want any updates, the 46, sorry for the botch there. Matt Jaskell is no longer affiliated with that team. Team owner Tim Vines and Matt Jaskell have both put out press releases. You guys can check those out. I don't want to go over them because, there's some tension on both sides, and it's best to leave that situation to both parties and let that be fit. A lot of friends and I'm a supporter of Glory to God. I'm always a supporter of the new and the lower budget truck teams. No matter how controversial some of them may be. And a lot of people got opinions on Tim Vines. And I understand those opinions. I just like to cheer for the lower budget teams. You guys know how I roll, okay? If it's controversial, I still like to see a low budget team do well. And I still like Matt Jaskell. I was a big Matt Jaskell fan, so I cheered for the team. And, even when he got removed from the truck, Caden Honeycutt was in the 46, and I bet you guys did not know this. Caden Honeycutt's 46 truck was actually a former KBM winning chassis. One of my friends, Timecard100 on Twitter, aka Stephen Pullard, sent me a message saying that The 46 truck was a former KBM winning chassis, I believe he said from Homestead of 2020. And if that message is true, wow, that is quite interesting. Apparently, let's see here. So Caden Honeycutt. Actually, no, it was the chassis that William Byron won Loudon in 2016, KBM 024. I think that kind of history is cool right there, that Glory to God's running a 6-year-old, 7-year-old truck. I was a fan of Caden Honeycutt. He was doing very well in the race, too. I think he, at one point, at the end of stage 1 or stage 2, was running, like 13th? He was doing very well. Very, very well. And unfortunately, the day would not end that good, as he would get wrecked. Some other good runs we had. I guess you could say good and bad runs at the same time. Deegan finally got a good, somewhat you could call good run, finishing 19th, despite a run-in at the end with Lala Salon. If you want to go check out that video, it's on our YouTube channel. There's a shameless plug. But like I said, the BackMarkers, it just seemed like the BackMarkers didn't have a string at Martinsville, because the highest finishing BackMarker that I would really call a true BackMarker in the field was Timmy Hill in 23rd. And that's the only going so far is because Timmy was unsponsored in the event. The real low budget BackMarker that finished in this race was 25th, and that was Chase James and Josh Rayom's 33 truck. Martinsville this past weekend was not very kind to the BackMarkers in all 3 divisions. Not many BackMarkers really had overly impressive runs. A couple of good ones in the Xfinity Series, but even for the Cup Series, the BackMarkers did not do all that well. And I think it just came down to a setup. Just like Richmond, if you miss the setup at a short track, your day it's going to be a long day. Long day. It's going to be hard to recover, especially if you struggle in that first stage and go a lap down. But yeah, so that's the top 20 owners bonus. The 2 trucks behind it, 21st is the 33 of Rayom Brothers Racing, and 22nd is the 30 of On Point Motorsports. Those point gaps, 20th, the 44 of Nice has 83 points. 21st, Rayom 33 has 82 points. So the point gap's very close. Now, again, we're just a couple of races, about 5 races into 2022. So this battle is going to be a lot closer. As the season gets on, however, expect that battle to widen out. And that's why, of course, these types of videos will be better and later in the season. And that's why I've said last week, guys, BackMarker Battles is more of a video I want to bring to you guys later in the year. So that way these battles are a little bit closer at the end of the year, and these battles are a little bit more spread out. But for now, we're just having fun with this. Now, is the teams like the 24 and the 1, are they too far behind at this point to get the top 20 bonus? I believe so. Because if you look at 20th right now, Nice Motorsports 44 truck, 83 points. Number 1, Team DGR truck, 46 points. If I do my math correctly, that's 37 points. Now, compared to how Deegan would run on a normal basis to where Chris Wright would run on a normal basis, could she make up that 37 points over the rest of the year? Yes. But also there's other trucks. Excuse me. There are other trucks that are looking to get in there as well and could possibly still stay ahead of the 1. So although the 1 truck narrowly got the owner's bonus last year, I don't think David Gillen's going to be getting an owner's bonus this year, at least from the 1 truck. And as for GMS, if Jack Wood continues just this terrible string of luck in these first couple of races, I think, 3 wrecks? 3 or 4 wrecks? So I don't know, man. But we might see 2 very well-funded teams not get this bonus just simply because their drivers had a really, really, really rough start to 2022. And that's why for any low-budget team or high-budgeted team, I would say the first 5 to 8 races of the season are crucial for a season in the owner standings, because you got to build those points for provisional standpoints and for those respective bonuses. Going into the Xfinity race, there was a lot more hype. Obviously, you had Dale Jr. in the field. You had a bunch of young kids who you wanted to see beat the crap out of each other on and off track. And then, of course, you had the longtime veterans of the sport going after the Dash for Cash winnings. So a lot of storylines, and that's why, again, I felt like that the Xfinity race had the most flow to it, had the most excitement to it, because at the end of the day, it had the most going for it. Now, we did have qualifying, and the DNQs, I would say, really kind of shocked me a little bit in a lot of ways. I was happy that they were able to have qualifying. I think the funniest part of qualifying was that if Junior had not made the top 33, he would have missed the show. And the funny part about that is that Junior barely made the show. I think Junior ended up pulling up the qualifying results here. Junior ended up 30th on the time trials, making the show by less than a tenth. Had Junior botched his lap any worse than he did, Junior would not have made the show. And knowing a guy like Dale Jr., I don't think he would have ride bought. I don't think he would have bought a ride. I think he would have accepted that DNQ and he would have went home. But the cars that missed the show, the 45 of Ryan Ellis, and I told you guys on this last week's episode, I was a little concerned. Ryan Ellis, although he already had two impressive performances in the 44 car, this car was a little bit lower in owner points, and we had seen that Ryan had struggled on his qualifying runs. He'd do a lot better in the race, but he didn't have the best luck in qualifying. So I told you, I even predicted he'd be a DNQ. And it's been a rough year. Overall, if you look at the 45 Alpha Prime cars results, it's been a really, really rough year for that team. Really, really rough year. Ronnie Bassett Jr., again, it just seems to be a common cliche at this point. The 77 Bassett Racing team practices very well, almost always in the top 25, but they just can't back it up in qualifying. It's a weird cliche at this point. It's happened at 5 to 6 different races. And I feel bad for the team. They have a good car. They have a good team. Dylan and Ronnie Bassett are good drivers. It's so hard to make these races. And for a team like that, you got to wonder how much money do they have left, spending probably, $30,000 a race plus just to go home? I really hope the 77 team one of these days can make a race. I believe their next attempt might be Talladega. I'm not for sure. And even then, that's a stretch because we saw back at Daytona, they did not have a car that was capable of qualifying in the top 33, but yet having a car that could easily run in the lead draft. So again, it's just that little thing about making a show, and we've seen so many teams who can race good. They just have trouble making races. Chad Fincham in the 13, which was a little bit of a letdown for me. I kind of expected Chad to be able to do a lot better. This was a former Gibbs car. I believe Wookie Automotive TV on social media tweeted that this was a former Gibbs car. I already kind of knew that. But I figured Chad would do a lot better. And I was listening to Chad's radio. They sounded really, really confident about the car. But then I looked at the practice results. He was only, he was only 38th quickest. And I'm like, you don't usually pick up a lot from practice to qualifying at Martinsville. And for Chad to think that he probably would be safe in the show, he would have to pick up almost a good half a second. And at Martinsville, picking up half a second is very difficult. It's hard enough to pick up a tenth at Martinsville. So picking up a half a second, and you guys, whoever watched qualifying, you guys saw it. He locked it up on his second qualifying lap, and I pretty much knew when that happened, he was not making the race. The other DNQs, Josh Williams, who is just, I'm happy. We'll get to Josh Williams' big announcement for this weekend in a little bit. But, man, Josh Williams' third DNQ of 2022. It's definitely been not the season that Josh Williams and B.J. McLeod had hoped for this team. And it's just another thing. They have good cars. They can race good. They've just missed the setup on qualifying. And it's just been a really rough year. And at this point, they are so low in the owner's points. I think they are the lowest full-time car in owner points that has made races this season besides the 47, 39th. I just checked it, 39th in the points. And being that far down, that is brutal, man. And I would say if they're not in the top 33 at Talladega, they're going to go home again. And, in the chat, I see people saying, could Williams get released? I don't know, because at the end of the day, he does bring a lot of sponsorship over to BJ's team. But there does come a time where, despite sponsorship, if you miss race after race after race, what do? Now, I don't want to see anything happen to this partnership. We are all Josh Williams fans on this channel. I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't like Josh Williams, or at least doesn't respect hard work, and that embodies Josh Williams and BJ McLeod and BJ McLeod's team. Hard work. But I don't know, man. They just have to get something together, because it's not working. They showed signs of life at Richmond, but I didn't think that they were going to make the race last weekend at Martinsville, and sure enough, they didn't. I'm really concerned for Talladega. They did manage to qualify in on speed at the first one back in Daytona, but I don't know. I see people in the chat. BJ McLeod Motorsports in the past has also done owner point swaps for its cars. I could see that, yes. But remember, this is not where BJ McLeod had multiple drivers in one car. This is the first time in BJ McLeod's kind of career as an owner, all three cars have just one driver, with the exception of the 5, doing a couple of deals with Stuart Haas drivers, and Matt Mills would run the 55. But you guys know what I mean. Pretty much 3 full-time cars with 3 full-time drivers. So I don't think you want to jeopardize those other teams by trying to swap points. I don't think that would necessarily be fair, because what we saw last year was that the 99 car switched points with the 5. But keep in mind, the 99 car last year was a rotational car with different drivers. The 5 was full-time with one driver. So I don't think BJ is going to actually want to do that, because he doesn't want to jeopardize any of his other teams. But you definitely look at the struggles of this season. None of BJ McLeod's teams are in the top 30 10K bonus. So that sponsorship money is very crucial to that team keep going. But unfortunately, the struggles will continue for Josh Williams. And, I hope they have a good piece for Talladega, because if they don't make that top 33, they are going home. And that's kind of sad to say at this point in the season, because everyone, including me, expected a lot better. But that's not to say that this team has not worked hard. They definitely have. Harrison Rhodes, we all predicted that Jimmy Means Racing was going to struggle this season. And, I was just, honestly, coming out of Martinsville, I was just happy they still had a car. The 52 locked it up really bad going into 1 on his qualifying run. I was just happy he saved the car. And Jimmy Means Racing, we got to wonder how many races they're going to be going through this season before they finally just, call it, I don't know, not necessarily a season, but maybe give it a couple of breaks of races. Or could they buy points in the future? I don't really see Jimmy doing that. I don't know if he has the funding for that. Harrison Rhodes, it was kind of funny to see Harrison Rhodes really come out of nowhere, coming back into the sport. But yeah, it's just tough. Jimmy Means Racing, they don't have a technical alliance, not that I know of. And it's just sad, because we're all Jimmy Means Racing fans. We're all Jimmy Means Racing fans. We love Jimmy. We want to see him make races. And I think Harrison could do a great job. Again, it's the one thing I've said about the 77 team. They can race good. You just got to make the race first, and that's the hardest part. Based off of speed from Daytona, I would be shocked if the 52 runs Talladega, mainly because they would have no shot. They barely hit 175 by themselves at Daytona earlier this year. So I don't expect to see the 52 at Talladega. And if they do show up to Talladega, unless they got a motor that I don't know about, I would say put your 52 betting odds of missing the show. And then, of course, we had the 28 doing a driver change, but that was just, again, One thing I don't like about provisionals, it's nothing against Natalie Decker, but if you're going to have a car that's that slow, yeah, she wasn't the slowest car on the grid. But if you're going to be that slow and you're just going to have people who just barely miss the show, go home, that's, again, where I have problems with this. And I've always been of the mindset is if you're not in the fastest set allotment of cars, I don't believe you should race. Even if you're a high-budget team. Again, I think that rule came into play just because Richard Petty started missing races in the late 80s, I believe. But I really kind of wish we would get rid of owner point provisionals and just take the fastest 38. If that was the case, guys like Mike Harmon with Brennan Poole and Harrison Rhodes with Jimmy Means would make the race almost every week. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. That's just kind of my personal opinion. But, yeah, a lot of the backmarkers who needed to make that race at Martinsville really struggled. And for a lot of those teams, it's only going to get worse, especially going into the summer races, which – by this point, if you're not making races, it's only going to get more difficult because usually around the summertime to fall, we see more part-time teams coming into the sport or more teams fielding part-time cars, if that's what makes sense. Some of the great stories I felt that came out of Martinsville was once again 2 races in a row. Brennan Poole took that 47 and put it in the show. And I listened to that radio through practice and qualifying. That team went through absolute, you know what I mean. For anyone wondering, it was a carburetor issue. There was just not enough power coming off the corners, and Brennan was in slowest in practice by quite a bit. Listening to crew chief Ryan Bell, they got the carburetor changed. Apparently, Ryan also cut his hand really badly because I heard him say that on the radio, so hope he's okay there. And honestly, there was not a lot of optimism on the radio. And then just like Richmond, Brennan Poole goes out and lays down one heck of a lap. And, just like what Ryan Bell, crew chief, said on the radio, Brennan Poole is a special driver. And I think that is one of the most saddest but best things I've ever heard. And that is 100% true. Brennan Poole is one of those drivers you wish got a chance again because he was there. He had that opportunity with Chip Ganassi, but then the whole DC Solar situation, we all remember how that went down. And Brennan Poole has just kind of been in floundering rides ever since. I like the pairing with them and Mike Harmon. I've just kept saying if they can keep the car going, Brennan can give it a good run. They blew up in 3 laps at Vegas. They got just about half the race at Richmond before the rear gear failed. And tonight, man, was just the ultimate sadness when I saw that 47 car blow up, not even before they took the green flag. And even Brennan was shocked on the radio. He was like, whoa, what the heck is happening? Even the crew chief was shocked too. And they tried to fix it, but unfortunately it was terminal. And yeah, you want to see a team like this succeed. You want to see Mike Harmon succeed. Even though Mike Harmon might not be NASCAR's favorite team, you want to see them succeed. You want to see Brennan Poole get there. And then just to see this happen, an engine failure this quickly, it just makes you so sad. I know people are like, get that car off the track. Well, you know what? No, that team deserves to be there. If Brennan Poole can get that car in the race, they deserve to race. I don't want to see any haters about that car. If Brennan Poole can get the Mike Harmon car in the show, then that car deserves to be on the damn grid. Dang it. That's my personal frustration. I'm a big Mike Harmon supporter, and I'm a huge Brennan Poole fan, and I will cheer this team every week. Now, will they make Talladega? It's just like Jimmy Means. We saw the speed at Daytona was not there for the 47 team. Would not shock me. And personally, I think it would probably be the best idea unless they get some sort of upgraded motor. I would not go to Talladega because you're pretty much wasting your time. But yeah, so that kind of went on a long tangent there. We do actually have some Xfinity news before I get into the back markers of this race. We do have some Xfinity news. Kyle Auser, what's up? Up in the chat. The 48 team, which we have seen struggle this season, the Big Machine Racing team, they've run good. It's just they haven't really gotten the finishes that they deserve. And unfortunately, I kind of knew it was going to happen eventually, and it did happen. Jay Buford will not be racing. I believe it's Talladega and Dover. And Kaz Grala will be put in the 48 car now. I'm a little skeptical. Kaz Grala has a huge fan base. And I'm not taking anything away from Kaz Grala, but I really don't understand the hype. You know, Kaz is a nice guy. I've met him plenty of times. But I've looked at his Xfinity and Cup results and his truck results, and I just don't see anything special. He's had a great, I would say, but an average career. I don't see anything special. Personally, I don't think Kaz would maybe just a couple of positions better. Maybe a couple of positions better. You know, everyone's like, well, because Grala's a good driver. Well, so is Jay Buford. Jay Buford's a great driver. He just needs more time on the ovals. You know, the 15-minute practice sessions doesn't help a guy like Jay Buford because he needs that track time, being from an road course racing background. I'm optimistic. Will Jade return to the car? Who knows? Will Kaz run more races? Who knows? I do like the partnership. The 48 team, I like them. You know, I like Scott Borchetta. My family loves spiked cooler energy drinks. So I guess in some ways we have to cheer them. But yeah, so that's kind of some news. Not really a BackMarker team, as we know, because the Big Machine Racing team does have manufacturer support from ECR Engines. So they are an easily capable top 20 team. But yeah, so Brennan Poole blew up really before the first lap even got completed. Brett Moffitt, he had a drive shaft let go 13 laps in. Howie DiSavino had a scary drive shaft failure just 37 laps in. Props also to shout out to Howie DiSavino after DNQing Richmond, not only got the car in on time, but also got the 44, a very good starting position of 22nd. So definitely improvement for Howie DiSavino after embarrassing DNQ a couple weeks ago. Some other backmarkers that struggled, the Natalie Decker 28 car. First off, I just want to say this. If you guys listen to the 28 cars radio, look, you know, we love to say weird things. That came out a little weird. We love to say, you know, mean things about Natalie Decker. But in my opinion, this race was just kind of like Bristol of 2019. Like it just seemed like she kept asking question after question after question. It's like she just didn't know what she was doing in the car. And I'm like, you've done this, you know, a long time. You've almost had 100 NASCAR starts combined with ARCA. And you're still asking what I would presume, and even most people would presume, basic driver questions that you would know within the first year of driving, especially at a short track where she spent her entire career pretty much racing short tracks. You know, in my personal opinion, Decker should not be in the Xfinity Series. And, you know, I do believe this was supposed to be an RSS racing deal, but the RSS Xfinity car got torn up in another race. So they actually had to use an RSS car for this race. And she did the 28 car team no favors. The 28 RSS team is now out of the top 30 and is now 33rd in points. I was just saying that overall, that was just an embarrassing performance by the 28 team. And another thing is like the 66 team of J.J. Yaley, they also struggled in the race. 2 years in a row that the 66 has lost a cylinder in the spring Martinsville race. Yaley was running down a cylinder and was still faster than the 28 car. It took her like 3 or 4 laps to pass him. I mean, the hate on Natalie Decker. Sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. Last weekend, it was warranted. Just, if you don't know what you're doing, don't drive the track or learn the car before you get in it. So, I don't know, man. after listening to that radio feed, it made me upset because you should know what you're doing. You've been in this sport for 4 to 5 years. You know what you're doing. And if you don't, get out of there. Get the heck off the track. I know I'm going to piss some people off with that because Natalie Decker has a huge fan base for some reason. Other underdogs that struggled. And the late melee crash, the 68 of Brandon Brown and the 91 of Mason Massey, and that huge melee crash got taken out. Stephon Parsons and Matt Mills both got junked in this race more than a couple of times. The 07 of Joe Graff Jr., I think he dumped 2 cars. God, let's see who else struggled here. Derek Griffith spun a few times. I really thought Derek Griffith would do a lot better in this series, driving for a team like Sam Hunt, which is easily a top 15 capable team. The underdogs that did well in this race, Jeremy Clements got a top 10 finish, which is always good to see. I don't know anyone who wouldn't be a Jeremy Clements fan. Parker Retzlaff. At this point, get Parker Retzlaff's sponsorship to run full-time. I want to see what this kid can do. Parker Retzlaff has been nothing but impressive. Get Parker Retzlaff full-time sponsorship. I want to see what this kid can do. I am utterly impressed. I don't know anyone who's not impressed with this kid. Professional, calm, and races smart. For a kid his age, he races so clean. He races so smart. If you look at the cars that at the end of the race, if you look at his car, barely any damage. He's not a rookie who just wrecks person like a late model driver. He's calm. He's cool. He takes his time. I appreciate that. And I really hope that Parker continues to show this. I am utterly impressed, and I hope to meet him this season. A great kid who is showing natural talent with the right team can pay off. And I'm so happy he got another top 15 finish. Alex LeBay, another solid 15th place finish for the DGM team, and a partnership that I hope lasts the rest of the season because it could save the team after the embarrassment that they've had the first couple of races. The 34 of Kyle Weatherman and Jesse Iwuji Motorsports. A guy like Kyle Weatherman, journeyman driver, natural talent, with the team of the 34, which I believe has a Hendrick engine program. I like the partnership. We're all Kyle Weatherman fans. I felt bad that Kyle could not find the sponsorship to keep going past his 5-race deal after DGM, but I hope this partnership lasts the rest of the year. A 16th place finish, a great run for this team. Exactly what they needed. And now they're getting the points to stay well above the DNQ bubble. And, of course, Kyle Weatherman is a guy who sometimes he doesn't even need the owner points. He can get that car in the show himself. And I really hope that Jesse Iwuji signs Kyle Weatherman to the rest of the year. If you have other races sold or if Jesse himself is driving Talladega, fine. But at tracks like Bristol, tracks like Dover, put Weatherman in the car. I think that this partnership could go a long, long way. Long, long way if done correctly. And I'm just excited. 16th, so happy for this team. Like I said, despite all the hate, I'm still a Jesse Iwuji fan. I told you guys, I never wanted this team to fail. A lot of people wanted this team to shut down. I never told you guys I wanted this team to fail. I wanted them to succeed. There was just one problem. They didn't have the right driver in the car. Now they do have the right driver in the car, so now you got to keep him. So if I'm Jesse Iwuji Motorsports, don't let Kyle Weatherman get away. This is a great partnership. They got a great run, probably the best payday they've gotten all year. And I'm just so happy. I want this partnership to continue. Jesse might drive Talladega because with the Hendrick engine program, they can probably get that car in the show based off of time alone. And Jesse's probably going to drive that race himself. And then Kyle Weatherman would return to the car, I believe, that next week at Dover. So looking at other great results for the backmarkers, we had Bailey Curry in 17th, Matt Mills in 18th, despite getting junked earlier in the race and getting sent to the wall. Like I said, Jade Buford, we went over that situation earlier, was 22nd. David Starr was 23rd. Myatt Snyder and the 31 team, in my opinion, have been a little bit underwhelming this season. Despite great sponsorship from Tax Slayer, they really haven't gotten the best results. Outside of a top 10 finish at Coda, 24th, I would say, is pretty disappointing. Even if they did have issues, that's still disappointing. Joe Graff Jr. was 26th. Ryan Vargas was 25th. Shane Lee for the Emerling Gase was 27th. Stefan Parsons was 28th. A lot of those back markers kind of struggling again. Stefan Parsons, man, he would not die. And massive respect. He kept coming. He kept showing those back markers. I will not die. Stefan Parsons is another natural, talented driver. And they just have trouble putting together their whole race. And I wished he would not have gotten dumped in those races because he easily had a top 15, I would say a top 15 car. Absolutely say that Stefan Parsons had a top 15 car in that race. But unfortunately, once again, they don't get the finish they deserve. As I mentioned before, JJ Yaley, they lost a cylinder halfway through. It's been a really, really tough couple of weeks for MBM Motorsports. They've fallen from 22nd to 27th in the points. They have to get their stuff together because you don't want to fall out of that 10K bonus. You got to stay as high as you can for provisional sake. So definitely Carl Long and that team been struggling. Hopefully they can revamp at Talladega as well in a couple of weeks. As for the fight, we saw after the race, my dad and I always love a good old-fashioned NASCAR fight. So we had our opinions. I don't want to say my opinion on here. We kind of already know the opinions. We already went over the fine and stuff. But the Xfinity race overall was the best race of the weekend, but still, in my opinion, was not overly great. It was the best race of the weekend, but I still would only give it a 6 out of 10. Martinsville did not deliver this weekend, but I think that was also in part due to the cold conditions, not being able to lay rubber down. So I don't blame the track. I don't ever really blame the track. I don't even blame the car. Just sometimes it can come down to weather conditions that can severely hurt how a race flows. You guys know it. For any drivers that watch this podcast, you guys know what I mean. Weather conditions can severely hurt how a track runs. So important owner point storylines. The top 20 owners bonus right now. The last two, 19th right now is the 36 for DGM Racing, and holding down 20th is the 07 of the SS Greenlight Racing Team with Jeff LaCourte. 21st, just 6 points behind. The 07 has 145. The 02 of Our Motorsports, which of course finished very low, so they lost a lot of points, is at 139, just 6 points behind in 21st. The 08 team, which of course bought the 92's owner points, is now sitting 22nd in points, only 14 points out of that top 20 bubble with 131. Other notable teams that normally would compete for that top 20 bonus that are currently not there. The 51 of Jeremy Clements is currently 23rd. And I would say that even the 44 of Alpha Prime is down in 25th. They kind of got off to a rocky start. The 38 for RSS is all the way down in 28th. In terms of teams that got to get it together, we already kind of went over some of the teams that need to pick it up. The 99 of BJ McLeod Motorsports is 35th. The 45 for Alpha Prime is 36th. Yes, Jesse Iwuji Motorsports is in 38th, but they got a driver now who can really get that car in the show. The 78 of BJ McLeod is 39th. And the last full-time car right now is 43rd in points, and that's the 47 for Mike Harmon. So that was the Xfinity race. Now we're going to move on to Cup. And, well, the less said about this race, the better. I think we can all pretty much come to that conclusion. And I hate to be bad about the race, but It kind of just says it itself. I'm not going to go rant on it because, it doesn't solve anything, and that's not what this podcast is about. So the back markers of this race, I would say the greatest story all weekend was the 38 of Todd Gilliland, qualifying in the top 10. I wanted him to win the pole. And you guys watch Cup qualifying. He full sent that thing, and imagine seeing a front row motorsports car on the pole. That would have been cool, especially in this day and age with this kind of technology, seeing a front row motorsports car on the pool. Other underdogs in this race, again, kind of like the truck race. You have to have the good setup to be able to perform here, and a lot of teams didn't have that. And, the one thing I will say about this race is, with NASCAR kind of, focusing on the cars that are about 1st through 10th. I even said that during the race that, teams 51, 15, 77, and 78 were getting more TV time than the cars that were running 17th to 25th. And they were. I think J.J. Yaley in the 15 car got more TV time than Cole Custer. What does that say? Now, we did only have one DNF in this race. B.J. McLeod pulled off, reported that something was broken in the right front, and by the time that they had addressed the issue, I'm not sure if it could have been fixed, but they were already so many laps down, they just made the decision to retire, which actually was the right decision because they wouldn't have gained any spots, and it probably was just an easier decision to load up early, and by the time the race was over, pretty much be already loaded up. The other back markers that struggled, Josh Bilicki finished 35th. We've kind of noticed that the 77 for Spire is kind of the filler entry. It's not excuse me there. It's not the entry that has the most money put into it. Obviously, that's the 7 car. The 35 is just kind of there as a help funding car is kind of what I've seen and kind of what I put together. J.J. Yaley, 34th. Again, same thing with the that car is kind of a helper entry for the 51. Was kind of interesting seeing that the 15, it gave us our first glimpse of what a next-gen car looks like unsponsored. It looked weird. And I think NASCAR really should have an exception. If you don't have a sponsor for this weekend, don't run the number forward. It looks even weirder. It really looked weird. It didn't look right. I'm kind of surprised that Rick Ware didn't just put a giant Rick Ware Racing logo next to the door to at least fill it up. It was just weird, And I guess, I kind of see what is into the chat. Comparing the 77 and the 15 to like start and park entries, I don't know if I'd go that far, but I do see the comparison of how those are helper entries that are not as competitive as the main car. I do see where you're coming from in the chat, Sir Relkstein. And then, of course, the final back marker I would really say is Cody Ware in 33rd. All the back markers finished in the final 4 position. I would say final 5 because Corey LaJoie finished 32nd. So not a good weekend for the back markers at all in the Cup race. And I would say this weekend, though, we definitely got some better chances. We'll go over the entry list in a second. Teams that did struggle in this race notably was Colleague. Both cars, once again, outside the top 20. JT Jordy Racing and Wood Brothers Racing outside the top 25 again. And Denny Hamlin down in 28th. Trackhouse, Daniel Suarez down in 29th. A lot of bad runs this weekend for a lot of teams. And it just kind of sums up overall that it was just not a good race. But obviously, everyone's made their statements about that, and we're kind of moving on to the weirdness and the clash of Dirt Bristol this weekend. As, of course, the Xfinity Series does not race here. Kind of glad about that. It's always good to see the Xfinity teams get a week off, get a chance to prep themselves. As for the Pinty's truck race on dirt, we have 38 entries. And yes, Norm Benning is back. For anyone who's curious, Norm Benning is back with sponsorship from Circle B Diecast. Norm Benning at age 70 is getting a diecast. This is not a drill. Norm Benning is getting a diecast. We have to make sure this car does not get DNP, did not produce. I hope this truck makes it to production. I've already put my pre-order in. You guys do the same when it happens. When it happens, I'm going to put my pre-order in. You guys put yours in too. We have to get this truck made. And Hero Cards, go check out Norm Benning's social media. You can find a chance to win some social media prizes. He's putting a lot into this race. We have 38 cars for 36 spots. Kaz Gralla will be in the 02, normal driver. Jesse Little will not. Chase Elliott will be in the Spire Motorsports 7. Harrison Burton will be in the DGR 17. Mike Marlar, who's run for Rayom in the past, will be in the 33 again. Keith McGee will be in the 43. Andrew Gordon, who ran in this race last year for Ray Ciccarelli, will be in the 46 for Glory to God. Buddy Koifoid, hopefully I pronounced that name correctly, will be in the 51. Joey Logano will be in the 54 for Team DGR. Jessica Friesen, Stuart Friesen's wife, will be in the 62. And we're seeing the 75 team. And ironically, the 75 Henderson Motorsports team is running Bounty sponsorship. How ironic that a paper towel company is sponsoring a dirt race. Love it. I love it. If only we could get a diecast of that truck. As for the DNQs, this is not normal qualifying. They're based on heat races. So you got to wonder, man, it's not just about speed for Norm. A lot of people are saying that Norm might go home. Man, I wouldn't count out Norm. Norm's been pretty good on these dirt races. And, well, when he has to get the job done, I think he can get the job done. I'm still going to put him on my DNQ list, mainly just because I think it's just when it comes to passing points, and Norm might just get wrecked because some people else have to make the race. I'm still going to put him on my DNQ list, but he's not going to go down without a fight, and that's for sure. My other DNQ, and this is simply because they are so low in owner points, is the 9 of Blaine Perkins. That team has struggled to make races. I just don't see him making it either. So the 6 and the 9 are my DNQs. My pick to win the race, no clue. So I'm not even going to give one. If I had to give one, that pick's probably going to run 12th. So I'll just give my DNQ picks. You guys can give your DNQ picks in the chat. Definitely, I think that truck race is going to be a wild show like we saw last year. Hopefully, we don't see any stupid crashes like we did last year. Now, will a Cup guy win the race? I don't think so. I don't think Chase is going to win the race at all. And honestly, I'm kind of rooting for a dirt ringer to win. I think that'd be pretty cool if Buddy Koifoid could make it 2 for 2 with the KBM 51 truck winning 2 years in a row. So that'd be kind of cool. So I guess fine. If you want my pick, there's my pick. Buddy Koifoid is my pick to win the truck race. As for the Cup race, no open cars. Kind of predicted that with the Next Gen program. Why would an open car with little payout run a race like dirt where you could easily tear up the car? It's kind of understandable. So we just got the 36 chartered cars with some different entries, which is happy to see. The 77 Spire entry will be Justin Allgaier. The 78 will be Josh Williams. I know this sounds weird, but yes, Josh Williams will be making his Cup Series debut for Live Fast Motorsports. We've seen the struggles that Josh has went through on the Xfinity program, and it really does warm my heart that Josh is getting this chance to show what he's got in Cup. And we don't know how he's going to do on the dirt. He's run well on the ARCA dirt races at DuQuoin and Springfield. And I hope he makes the most of this opportunity, and I hope he gets a good run. Definitely hope so. So happy for him there too. J.J. Yaley, he's one of the most successful dirt racers in history. He's the only man, and next to Tony Stewart, I think, to win 3 USAC championships in the exact same year, which still has not been replicated. It's just J.J. and Tony who have done that, which is pretty cool. I think so. JJ could probably get that car a good run. Again, just 36 cars, so it's not going to be as congested as last year where we had 39. And then, of course, the regular entries. Noah Gragson this time will be in the 16 rather than AJ Allmendinger. As for this race in the back markers, again, I would actually watch out for J.J. Yaley. I think he's going to be a lot more competitive. I think Yaley's going to be a lot more competitive than people think he's going to be. He got 28th in this race last year, and I think with how closer they are, especially with the Stewart-Haas program, I think that they'll definitely be able to get maybe a top 25, and I would even say a top 20 is not out of the realm for J.J. Yaley in this car. It just depends on how they're going to put it. So that's kind of Dirt Bristol. Again, no Xfinity. We're going to be watching these bonuses. The top 25 Cup owner point bonus will end with going over the Cup bonus. The top 25 owners point bonus, the $1 million bonus. And, I'm telling you guys, that's a bonus to really watch out for these teams, because $1 million at the end of the year, a lot of teams use that for Christmas bonuses for their crew members, and maybe helping get more equipment in the off season. And right now, the top 25 bonus looks as this: 24th is the 41 for Stewart-Haas Racing, and on the bubble and 25th is the 42 for Petty GMS. That 42 car has 130 points. 26th is the Front Row Motorsports entry with 121, and in 27th is the number 16 colleague entry with 113. As of course, we do have a charter battle going on, as the 7 did purchase a Rick Ware charter from last season. So the 7 of Corey LaJoie must finish ahead in the top 33 to keep their charter for the next season. So far, Corey LaJoie is doing that handily, keeping a solid gap of at least 14 points over 34th place, the 15 of Rick Ware, and is likely to kind of easily stay ahead of them throughout this year. I'm mainly focusing on the 25th place battle, but obviously if the 7 continues to struggle, we will keep that battle updated as well. Anyway, guys, 56 minutes in here. Thank you guys for joining me on another episode of BackMarker Battles. We had a lot of people watch tonight. Like and subscribe for more. Check out my other videos. I'm starting to upload some fun content videos from the past. I hope you guys enjoy those too. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. Again, like, subscribe for more. ARCA Racing Podcast is coming back in a couple weeks. We might have another episode of BackMarker Battles on next week. We got some more content videos of old truck teams coming out soon. So be prepared for those. Again, like, subscribe for more. Cannot thank you guys. I love doing this with you guys every week. You guys make this happen, and I'm just thank you. From my bottom of my heart, I thank you guys for your support. Till next time, already repeated everything. You guys have a good rest of your day. We'll catch you all real soon. Follow my timeline for updates, and take care, guys. So long.